Winston, thank you so much for the kind introduction. It's a huge pleasure to be here with the Royal Society of Biology community and all the associated societies to talk about these very important themes. So I'm going to, hopefully, and then Winston will help me here, you'll be able to see the slides. So can you see the slides in full screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Winston. So I think that we are living extraordinary times. And for people like myself of a certain age, it's great to see things like racism, like intersectionality, making the big journals. So that's a science paper that is a review summary on the ecological and evolutionary consequences of systemic racism in urban environments. So in my lifetime, when I was 30 years old, when I was starting my career as a lecturer, I never thought that we would have this kind of paper being published and these discussions taking place with prominence in academia. But with all this change, the important overdue change that started to gain momentum, unfortunately, with George Floyd and the COVID pandemic and the impact on Black and Asian communities across the globe, particularly in US, in UK, for this context, comes a kind of disenfranchisement from our community. So the EDI, equality, diversity, and inclusion, sometimes is dubbed as endless distraction in inaction, because we can't see what we know and what is so important, not only in academia, not only for the welfare of our researchers, but to the sustainability of research ecosystems, to the sustainability of humanity as a whole, that is the lack of diversity. We don't see it transferring from what we know to practice. And in no other areas it is as important as in clinical research. So it's important to come back a little bit to the landscape. If you were all in the room right now, I would present this image and say, oh, what is the difference between the image on the left and the image on the right? And then people say, I don't see any difference. And people that, that are a bit more into conservation, they would spot. And the difference is that on the left, you've got a native forest with all the exuberance and then the diversity of a diverse exuberance of a diverse ecosystem. On the right, we've got a monoculture. So in this case, an eucalyptus monoculture. And we can see that it's a much less vibrant, a much poorer landscape. And I think it's a bit what we are living now in research ecosystems. And we are paying the price of this lack of diversity into strategies for the well-being, for the prosperity of the human enterprise, and it's particularly serious when it comes to clinical research. So who does and enables research? It's not a matter of choice, I believe. And I'm going to use very briefly the example of my daughter. So the daughter of an academic that, she did philosophy, and then she got into philosophy of science. She went to Nottingham to do MRes in biosciences after doing philosophy. And then now she interrupted because she became a journalist for BBC. That's not the life of most women, young women that look like her. So when we think about all the Black women, Black young women in academia, in biomedical research, and people aspiring to become clinical research scientists, we've got trajectories that are even less fortunate than Tommy Akimbadi. Tommy was one of our students in Nottingham. She graduated with her first in neuroscience. She spent almost 3 years trying to find a position, with a scholarship to do a PhD in the area, the biomedical area. And even before these struggles to position herself, she created the Black Women in Science Network when she was still an undergrad. And because she couldn't see how she would fit into the possibilities that biomedical research, that research as a whole, brings to one's life. So she couldn't see, she was in the university, she could see there were many possibilities, but she couldn't see herself enjoying, taking advantage, and contributing to that vision. It says volumes about how academia is today. And that's where our researchers, our clinical researchers are going to start their lives. So we end up really screening and selecting the people that are going to do the research. And we also select the people that enable research and that decide if the research we do is good or not. And that's a reflection from my colleague and friend at the University of Nottingham, Kahila Khan, with Fiona Ross and Tessa Parks. So it's a blog in the REF21 website. I can send the references that I realized I didn't put here, saying that all voices matter. And they went through to see how many people of color were part of the REF 2021 exercise. And they realized that the number was very, very small. And when it comes, for example, to Black academics, only 1% of the applicants were Black, and none of the applicants were appointed. So it says something systemic about the problem that we are facing here. And I think that it's important for us to see that the problem is not racism or misogyny, or ableism or transphobia, homophobia. There is the intersectionality that became a cool term, of the woke brigade, actually is a fact. So it's important for us to reflect on how the academic research community compares with the world demographics. And here we've got what is the research ecosystem mainly. People like myself, like Winston, unfortunately, we are the minority doing research. So we see that the world, or the research space, is designed by a certain kind of people for a certain kind of people. So we know, and it's a fact, and people that have these characteristics, that's a Caucasian, cis, male, heteronormative, from Europe or North America, this group is less than 10% of the world population. And these are the people calling the shots when it comes to research and when it comes to clinical research. So it's not it does not take too long. And here's an example that is hopefully becoming obsolete, because a few weeks ago we had the news that there is a new vaccine for malaria that is likely to be very efficient, but malaria kills Black babies. These are the people killed by malaria. And we don't have, at this moment, we don't have an effective way of controlling it, despite the recent discoveries. However, we've got a fantastic solution for erectile dysfunction. What can be for serendipity and all that, but we know there is a pattern that we can't deny. So it's important to think that it's not ethnic minority that we're talking about, it's the global majority. This paper that I really fell in love from Erin Check about the intersectional privilege of white, able-bodied, heterosexual men in STEM. So I'm going, for the interest of time, I'm not going to spend too much time in this graph. I can't hear you, Winston, sorry.
Yes, you have about 2 minutes.
2 minutes, and I'll try to be very, very brief.
Sorry.
No, but it's important. We've got so many amazing people to listen from. So here on Black, the first box is it's a scale of privilege in STEM, of inclusion in STEM. So the first box, we've got heterosexual white men without disabilities, followed by white women, heterosexual without disabilities. Then Black men without disabilities is the blue box. The pink or red box is Black women, heterosexual without disabilities. This group, in the scale of disadvantage, of the intersectional disadvantage, is only ahead, and quote unquote, people of color that are members of the LGBTQIA plus community and or disabled. It speaks volumes to what we see in research. But and the interesting part that I insist all the time is that there is a business case to be made. This paper from PNAS, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, says that the diverse innovation paradox in science, and it's a very cool paper that shows that despite innovating in a higher rate, people of color and women, the success, the innovation that they promote is not uptaken by academia, nor it corresponds to the progress in their career. So the discoveries that they made are lost to the system, showing that we need to create a blueprint for diversity in high-performance research settings. In the interest of time, I'm going to stop here, and I'll be very happy to take other questions. Thank you very much, Winston. Thank you all.
Right. Thank you very much, Maria. I'm really sorry I had to rush you there, and very interesting points you made. They were very similar to the points I was going to make in my presentation. So I'm glad you've made these points, and there were other points just about the pipeline into becoming a researcher and how and what are the barriers to that. But one quick question before we move on to our next speaker. People talk a lot about role models. Now, do you think that it is really about the fact that young, should we say, students from those populations who are not in academia and in research, do you think it's because they can't see themselves in those positions, or is it because people who are the gatekeepers can't see them in those positions? Which do you think is more? Is it people's lack of motivation to get into those positions, or the people who are in the positions preventing them from coming in?
I think that these people that make it to, that become our undergrads, they are amazing. They are going against awards. I think that if we carry on trying to change people to fit the system, we are going to perpetuate the problem. So I think it's the enablers, the gatekeepers, as you said, Winston, that we need to look at ourselves, because we become gatekeepers as well. And how can we really bring diversity, genuine diversity to the research space is something that we need to study together. As I said, we need to create this blueprint. And I think it's all about changing what excellence, rethinking excellence.